any of you married to the opposite type? Were you neither in your partner or sloppier than your partner? Have any of you had that experience of being frustrated by the fact that your partner was different than you, or decided to act differently than you? You preferred everything to be neat, or sloppy is not a decision, sloppy is a reaction. Sloppy is something that you don't have to do too much to do it. Neat is something you have to work at to get it to be organized and neat. In any case, we didn't have too much trouble getting the research. Excuse me? Did you want to say something? Oh, okay.
Started there, right?
We didn't have very much trouble finding people to talk to and get information to interview. And my friend and co-author, Max, and I decided that since he lived in California and I lived in New York, we would do our research on both ends of the United States. And we had a camper. We traveled all the coast of California and stopped at shopping centers where we see people together. We saw a couple together. We'd walk over and we'd say, do you mind if we give you this questionnaire to figure out if you're neat or sloppy? And they would start to laugh immediately because it opened up something that they all knew, but nobody knew why. So as a result of, in California and New York, we did 2,000 couples over a period of 7 years. And we acquired a tremendous amount of information. But we still were not sure why it happened until we discovered what was going on in California at the time at the Institute of Medicine in California, where experiments were being done to eliminate the problems of having seizures in epilepsy. So a whole group of doctors and surgeons were working on this problem since 1920, 1930. And they were doing experiments with cats because cats do get epilepsy. And so they theorized that since cats have a similar thing that human beings have, they have two sides of their brain. There's the left side and the right side. And if we cut the corpus callosum, which is the series of connections that separate the left and right brain, we could possibly stop the seizures. Well, it seems that they found out that that was true. And many years later, experimenting and gathering information, these doctors sent out a call to all the hospitals in the United States, and they wanted to get people who had epilepsy who were not being helped by medication. Well, they finally ended up with 21 volunteers for this operation where they were going to cut the corpus callosum of a human being and separate two brains. Now, every one of these 21 people recovered from the operation. 19 of them actually were willing to volunteer for a whole series of psychological tests because this is the first time in medical history that they had a whole group of people in a laboratory who volunteered for experiments that had a left and right brain separated and still functioned very well. Because it was hard to notice if there was any difference if they separated those two halves of the brain. Well, to make a long story short, thousands of tests were taken over a period of years. And that's when they discovered that the left and the right brain of every human being doesn't know the other side. That they're two separate brains that operate within the same person. And that if you're born with a dominance in your left brain, you're going to have certain characteristics in your behavior. And if you're born with a dominance in the right side, you're going to have other characteristics. So that gave us the information that we were looking for, because when we looked at all the different qualities of a person who was operating only out of their left brain or only out of their right brain, we saw a lineup which gave us the clue to understanding why people were neither side. So we can start the program now. Okay, now, once we speculated as to what was going on, we designed a whole series of tests of our own, Max and I, to determine how each person was operating out of their left or right brain dominant. Doesn't mean that a person only operates out of one side, but everyone is born with a certain degree of dominance. So this was one of the tests we designed, and I'll tell you why, because I'm not going to give you the test now, it's too elaborate. We did it 2 months ago, or a month ago. As you notice, honey, next slide. Go through all of these signs. Okay, stop. Now go back to the last one. Now, if you were to look at these designs, one is an A and one is a B. On all of these designs, we worked with 28 designs. So we would give the test to people in a group or personally, and they would pick out the design that they thought was more like me. So for example, if you look at the first...
Could you move back a little bit?
What's that?
Could you move back a bit?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. If you look at the first design, A, on the top, but you'll notice that that has certain qualities of a design that the 1B does not have. And every one of those A designs on all the ones we had there have something very different that differentiates A and B. Now A, how would you say that differs from B? If you were just looking at it and you're trying to analyze it, what would you say? In what way is A different than B?
Sharp.
What?
Sharp.
Lines and
It's sharp,
curves.
the lines are sharp.
Right? That means, I would use the term rectilinear. Rectilinear means straight lines, right?
And more lines.
And how about B? I think that was true. How about B? How would you describe the B design?
Smooth.
Go ahead. What else?
I can't think.
Peaceful?
Easy.
What?
Peaceful, quiet.
Yeah, that's
All
true.
those lines.
Absolutely. Okay. So, the same thing with A and B on the bottom. And if you go back once more. Okay, the same thing with this. Every one of these designs, the A is different than B in the things we're talking about. A is what I call rectilinear, straight lines. B is curved lines. Now, it's a little bit more the same thing here. Straight lines, curved lines, circles. But it's more than that. It's A is very full of static design. It's not going anyplace. It's straight lines that are all lining up symmetrically. B has circles and conversion and motion. So same thing with the bottom one. It's very straight and very full of motion. More excitement, more emotion in all the B's than there is in all the A's. So, okay, I won't go through all of them. I'm going to do 28 of them. That was one test we made out. And the reason we designed this test is because we discovered from the experiments that these doctors had done in California is that the left brain has to do with rectilinear design. They have to do with things that are straight, that are organized, and you'll see that later on as we go through it. So, check it. Go ahead. Okay, now this is a design of the brain. And these are the qualities in the left brain as compared with the right brain. If we go down it, the left brain is analytic, organized, step by step, meaning that if you have a problem in your left brain dominant, you will say 1, 2, 3, 4, one idea after the other. One would follow the other. That's step by step. But the right brain doesn't do that. The right brain is, let me say, disorganized. So as we go down, the left brain is detail conscious, intellectual, structured, conscious, rational, verbal, time-oriented, linear thinking. Linear thinking is straight line thinking, logical. The right brain primarily is sensual, images, abstract, mysterious, timeless, intuitive, holistic, irrational, spatial. Spatial is a good example because spatial is a way of thinking about time. Either time is digital, which means one comes after two and three and four, and one follows the other in the left brain. In the right brain, thinking is spatial, it's like amorphous. It's not organized by one step after the other. The right brain is disorganized. Its immediate gratification means that the right brain wants to experience what we have right now. They don't have time to worry about what's happening tomorrow, what happened yesterday. They're impulsive, right? So this is, of course, not what the brain really looks like, but these are the qualities. The next one. Go ahead. Okay, now here's another way of separating it. The left brain has words and language, and the right brain identifies patterns and images. That's an example I was saying of rectilinear and curvilinear. The next thing is the left brain is verbal, and the right brain is nonverbal, has no language. All the language is in the left brain. The left brain is time conscious, meaning they make an appointment, they operate everything in terms of trying to beat that appointment in time. The right brain is spatial in their sense of time. They're usually late for appointments. That's just the way they are. They're not conscious of every minute that goes by. That's the product of the left brain. The left brain is practical, and the right brain is fantasy-based. That's why they say that autistic people are fantasy-based. Autistic people have more imagination. They tend to be artists or musicians. And the left brain assigns meaning to things, and the right brain is into daydreams and impulses. The left brain is cautious, and the right brain is risk-taking. The left brain it follows rules and schedules, and the right brain is spontaneous. So again, factual, detailed, visual, and conceptual. If you see the comparison between the two sides of the brain, it's not that one person couldn't have all of these things at their various times, but by and large, over 80% of the people that were tested found that the left brain really encompassed most of those things on the left side, and the right brain encompassed all the ones on the right side. Move. Next. Okay, now here's an example about dominance. See, since I know from other studies that the left brain are divided between 1 to 5, and the right brain from 6 to 10. So we have Felix, who is from 1 to 5. He's usually a 1. And Oscar is from 6 to 10, and 10 is usually Oscar. So the further you are in extremity, the more extreme you are in that brain dominance. So for example, Felix, because he's portrayed in an extreme way by all the comedy, is all those things we looked on the left side, those are his qualities. And Oscar, who would be a 10, would be extreme, is all those things that were on the right side of the line. So what does that mean? That if the relationships between you and another person, whether that person is a mate, or a child, or a parent, or a friend, anyone you know has a left or right brain dominance. But it doesn't mean they're a 9 or a 10 or a 1. They could be a 3 and a 7. It could be a 4 and a 9. So even though you might be different, the closer you come to the middle, which is 4, 5, or 6 and 7, the more you'll think the same way. You'll be able to make adjustments in your relationships. But if you're a 1 and a 10, forget it. Because that's what Oscar and Felix are all about, is that there's nothing they agree on. Everything that they plan to do, one would do it one way, one would do the other. And nobody in history has ever figured out why. You know? Okay, go to the next one. Okay, now these are the complaints that you get about right brain people from left brain people, right? They say right brain people get too emotional, they're too extroverted, they won't stay on one topic in discussing something, they're too sensitive, They don't appreciate the way I show caring. So you might say in that example, if your mate, husband or wife, is not very emotional, they don't show love in the way in which the right brain person would like them to show love, which is on the other side more romantic. So again, the complaint against the right brain people is they never put things away, which I think you know, and they clutter horizontal surfaces. And that's an example. Right brain people tend to, when they organize, they put things on flat surfaces. They put it on the bed, they put it on the windowsill. Anything that's flat on the floor, that's how they file. It's right brain people. Left brain people, they find a place for everything. They put things in drawers, they hang them up, and they write notes as to where they put them, you see. So the left and right brain are very symptomatic about that. Okay, and the right brain people, the complaint is they're always late. Now, I don't know if you know right brain people that have been on time, but they're a rarity. I mean, whether they're 5 minutes late or 2 hours late, or that they get the appointment altogether, that's typical of a right brain person. Like they say, artists are scattered brain. Most artists are right brain. Okay, right brain people are always on the phone, and they're also too impulsive. Now, the complaints about left brain people is they're emotionally unavailable, they're too inhibited, they don't like to chat, they won't talk about feelings, they're not romantic, they're always organizing things, which is how they keep things in place. They're always straightening up, and they're very impatient, and they're too concrete and too cautious. So, do you relate to any of these things we're talking about now? Do you know people or know yourself as embodying some of these qualities without thinking about yourself as being left or right brain, because that's a category that I've invented, but it explains things about needs to sloppiness. Next. Okay, now, here's the point, that the odd couple syndrome as a system, which I invented, is about understanding our brain dominance. Wait a minute, say this for a minute.
What happened?
Okay. They're about understanding how our brain dominance affects our perception and personality. Next. What they are not is a measure of intelligence, a measure of character, or a measure of emotional health. That's a big mistake that people make, is they think if you're right brain or left brain, that means it's about your general character. It's not about that. It's about physiological things like dominance of the brain style. When you're born with the dominance in one side or the other, and everything you see in life, you're going to run through that prism. And so your tendency is going to be, if you're inclined, artists aren't invented. A person doesn't become an artist, say a musician, or a painter, or a playwright. They're not just people who decide to do that. That's their inclination if they're right brain, because all the qualities they need to become an artist are the things that the right brain specializes in. Now, it doesn't mean they don't have a left brain also, and they're not organized and on time from time to time. But usually, it's a generalization that the left and right brain are very different, but it's only modified by how close they are to the middle. So a 6 and a 5 can get along very well. They're different brain style, but they're very close to the other side. They can do both sides. But the further away they go to the extreme, that's how different they are, and the more what they are, as I segregated in the way there. Okay? Okay, next. Okay, now the question, why do opposites attract? Let's have some answers here. I mean, you all know opposites attract. I don't know if you were attracted to your husband or wife at the time, or your children. For some reason you don't understand, but you were attracted to them. Why are you attracted to an opposite type? Why would you think, for your own experience,
You're looking for their traits.
that they're different traits?
You're looking for.
Right. Okay, good. That's good. What else?
Is it a challenge?
That's another good reason. Go ahead. Some other reasons why opposites attract? attractive.
You don't want someone that's exactly like you.
Is she talking about physical?
Well, these are all good answers, but they're good answers for the wrong reason. Because usually when we, did you want?
I was gonna say, maybe we're trying to fix it.
Right,
That person's gonna need up.
That's what I'm getting at, right? You see, when you're attracted, you'll see this in some cartoons I have on here. Let's do that first, and then we'll discuss it again. Okay, go past that. Okay, here we are. This is a typical example of a romance. These two people attract each other. He loves her because she's ethereal, she's an artist, and he's madly in love with her. And she loves him because he's in an ivory tower, he pays the bills on time, he's very rational, he's very funny. Okay, then he goes down, and a couple of years later, 5 years later, he says, I wish she was more down to earth. So she's crashing all along those lines, she's flying, she's crashing on there. And she says, he says, it's not logical. He never shares his feelings. So, and then they end up going in opposite directions. So the very things that they were attracted to, they were repelled by once they were in constant contact. And because he didn't understand the basic reason there's a conflict. Right? We'll get to that later. Go to the next one. Okay, here's an example. This is when they first meet. This is his apartment. That's her apartment. This is their apartment. Now my son used to say, Dad, because I would always need my son was very sloppy. So my son would say to me, Dad, don't you understand that when neat and sloppy collide, sloppy wins? Next. Okay, here's another one. This guy is sitting up in bed and his wife is sleeping. He gets up to go to the bathroom. He comes back, the bed is made. She's still sleeping there.
Oh, what a nightmare.
That's how you see it.
She makes the sheets.
Next one.
That's a riot. Who does
Okay,
that?
here's a couple, they come back from a movie, and she's lying in bed, she's waiting to make love to him, and he says, wait a minute, I gotta hang my coat up. He hangs up all his clothes, he puts everything, he folds his socks, he looks in the mirror, he brushes his teeth, he comes back, she's sleeping.
He lost out. Yeah.
So this is like a typical left-right clash, go ahead. Okay. Okay, so we're getting back to why opposites attract. One of the things everybody seemed to hit on, but it wasn't quite elaborate enough, is that when you are attracted to someone that's different than you, you recognize they're different, but you love it because you want to get what they have. Unconsciously, you want to be more like him or more like her. So that's a hidden, unconscious desire to be more like them. But then as it continues in their life, people don't change that much. She's going to continue to be this thing which he admired, and then he gets very irritated at it, when she is that way, you know? So that's where a lot of the conflict comes in, is that people would like to, they know the deficiencies in themselves. A right-brain person knows that they're not free, they're not organized, they don't pay their bills on time, they can't keep their appointments. They know that somewhere. They'll keep doing it, but they know it. But they see it in the maid, so they pick someone who's very organized in a cartoon. But then they realize that they can't become like her or like him. No matter how they try, instinctively they're going to be the other way. So that's when all the conflicts start. And the conflicts between relationships, odd couple relationships in particular, is that people don't say, well, that's the way they are. They say, why are they doing that? They know I want them to do it the other way. and they don't want to change. I told them 100 times, hang your clothes up, you know, but he throws his socks on the bed, you know, when he goes to bed. So these things become compounded over the years. And more, the couple, instead of getting closer, they go further apart. Start to avoid that. Like the woman who's very, very neat is going to arrange the house. She's going to make it bulletproof, you know? So it's going to be neat all the time. And the typical story is that the guy who's an auto mechanic comes home from work, and he's ready, he's tired, he worked all day, and he's a right-brain guy, so he sits down without changing his clothes or his hands, he sits down and he eats dinner, and she has everything set up with flowers, and the whole place is like immaculate, and he gets greasy hands on the chair, you know, and he's feeling relaxed if he's home, and they get a big argument, and he can't understand why. He says, I had to stay late to finish the job. What are you talking about? Yeah, but every time I try to keep the place in order, you mess it up. Because she doesn't understand that he's not doing it for the reason she thinks he's doing it. You know, he's being him, you know? So then again, that has to do with the difference, the accepted difference on numbers. If they were closer together, like a 5 and 6, they would understand that a little better. Not perfectly, but a little better. But left and right brain are still very different. Okay. Okay, here's a good example. A left brain mother and father with a right brain child. Now, what do you think that's like? Like, figure a left brain mother and father who are very organized, very rational. They do all the right things. They want to put the kids in good schools, and they want them to dress right. They want them to behave right. And the right brain kid, he's building model airplanes on the kitchen table. And he's dropping food all over the place. And he's staying out too late. And he's a right brain kid. He's more adventurous. They're not. So it builds up a tension. You know, both people are being themselves. The parent has a different responsibility than a peer who happens to be her mate. But the parent is, if they know the real reason why the kid is acting the way he's acting, they would have to give some kind of credence to what he's doing and try to circumvent it. But they think that the kid is just irresponsible. And he's just doing these terrible things because they want revenge on their parents, you know. There's all these reasons. So then you take a right brain mother and father with a left brain child. Now, the left brain child is the one that's keeping everything neat, and the parents are sloppy. So he's always annoyed to bring anybody home because the house is a mess. And they don't see anything wrong with it. They don't see the leg all over the place. But the left brain kid, he's a mathematician. He wants to be an accountant. All the things he wants to do are left brain things. And the parents, they go to concerts, and he wants to do, you know, rock and roll or whatever, the music and the earrings and the tattoos. So there's a clash there. Then you take a mother and father, which are opposite types. That's the typical odd couple. And the child or children tend to favor an aunt or an uncle more than they do their own father or mother. Father and mother are knocking themselves out to give this kid everything they can do to raise the kid, what they consider to be right, and this kid doesn't feel comfortable because he's a opposite type, whether the parents are left brain or right brain. They're the opposite type of the kid. So he might be attracted to an aunt or uncle who happen to be his brain style. So he would be, I'm sure all of you must have had that experience where your kids are growing up and they're very close to either a grandparent or a brother or sister of yours, you know, an aunt or uncle. And the reason that is because people gravitate, particularly children, gravitate toward someone who has a similar brain style. That's universal. When people get to be adults, then the reasoning is different. They don't get involved in the opposites attracting as much, you know, because they don't get into long-term relationships. But so it's different with parents. Parents really have the responsibility of trying to understand what impact their own brain style has in the children that they're raising, or even maybe their own parents. You know, maybe grandparents. It's a clash between grandparents and adult children who don't get along for various reasons, you know, because they're opposite brain styles. Right? Yes. Okay, so odd couple relationships. You could be married couple, gay couple, friends, business associates. working relationships, they have the same kind of right-left perceptual traits and personalities which irritate the other. In a work environment, you're going to meet people all the time that are different than you know. And so decisions might be made, and you'll always think of one decision with all the qualities that your brain dictates, and the other person will be different again. Okay. Okay, so generally left brain parents or left brain people who are in a relationship, their activity is basically rational discussion, controlled emotions, and problem solving as a group. Stay there close to the middle. If they're a 5 and a 6 or a close number. Two right brain parents living together, or two right brain people living together for whatever reason. There's a lot of drama, lots of emotions, a lot of yelling and crying, expressions of anger and laughter. They're all emotional when you get two right brain people together. Okay, ways to improve the balance. Okay, now, once a person gets to the point where they recognize who they are and what their general brain style is, they may want to change. So these are examples of, like here are the activities to access your right brain, if you're a left brain person, right? You do meditation, guided imagery, picture a familiar face, write with your non-dominant hand, stimulate your senses, fantasize, daydream, free associate thoughts, appreciating the beauty of something, nature or other people, boring repetitive movements, making love, imagining how you would decorate a room, remembering a sad moment in your childhood. Now, the left brain person wants to become more right brain. The right brain person wants to become more left brain. They would do crossword puzzles, calculations, they would write with the dominant hand, they would categorize and organize all the time, they'd speak out loud, they remember a name, they'd rewire a house and things like that. But the truth is, this never happens. People don't do that. You don't change what you are. Those are all attempts that are categorized by people who want to change people. They say you have to do things more like me if I'm the opposite type. But that doesn't really happen, you see, because it's so ingrained, unless you're very close to the middle. If you're somewhere further out, close to the extreme, you're so accustomed to seeing things and doing things the way you want. These things really don't make much difference. If anything, you can change by 5%, but it's hardly worth it. Okay, now, here's the whole new thing. We're going to break up into little groups of 4 people. You can move your chairs around. I want you to pick some other people. You don't have to pick them. You don't have to know them. I want everyone to form little groups of 4 people. So, go. Just get up and move around. Pick anybody. Everybody's nice. Go ahead, get up. Everybody up. Stretch. It doesn't have to be someone